Are we live?
I think we're live.
Not
Hello,
yet.
everyone. Welcome to the second stream of the day. A little unusual, of course. This is our normal.
I don't think it's live yet.
Yeah, there's nothing on my. Usually, there's like a little thing.
Yeah, there's
on my
nothing on my screen.
Like,
What?
Oh, wait, it's
"Hey,
coming.
we
It's
live?"
coming.
I think we're
There it
live.
is.
Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. Welcome to the
Come on.
second stream of
Someone
the
needs to mute.
day.
That might be me.
A little unusual, of course. This is our normal.
I don't think it's
I'll
live
take
yet.
your word for it. Yeah, there's nothing on my.
Okay, it should, everything's muted now. Okay.
I think that was me. It was me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I had the tab actually
It might
playing,
be me, though.
playing in my headphones. No, we're all good. This is our normal hangout time, and
Normal Hangout channel.
we just weren't planning on skipping the prom, and it seemed like a little short to do just that episode. And the other thing I kind of have liked today is that our Beach Girl, thank you for the donation. Cheers.
The dance of capitalist superiority.
Yeah, I don't. Well, actually, I do have the button now that's not set up right. I guess I can add that now that YouTube broke or the normal Google Hangout feature. But yeah, so we're gonna do graduation day part 1 and 2. One thing I've enjoyed today is that more people from different time zones have been able to join. I realize that keeping it the way that we have is sort of limiting. So one thing I was actually just considering is, rather than doing a Buffy episode and an Angel episode in a single Google Hangout starting next month, because we're moving on to Buffy season 1, Buffy season 4, Angel season 1. We could do what we did today, where we have the Buffy stream at a certain time during the day, and then or the Buffy hangout at a certain time of day, and the Angel hangout at a certain time of day. So people who weren't necessarily interested in talking about she or
Wait, why?
Please say we won't do she.
Oh, I think it'd be funny.
Well,
that's a
yeah, that's
great
true. With
idea.
the
What are you talking about?
yeah. The dancing and the go ahead.
Well, one other thing we were talking about is considering going back to episodes that we skipped, because there could be some good stuff to rag on.
well,
Right.
A blooper episode.
Bad decisions hangout street. Like, that would be a lot. I don't do.
But we're not going to be drinking, presumably.
That would be a lot.
I think some of
Because we can't.
my contention is that some of the hard to watch episodes are bad for different reasons, and some of them are more interesting than other ones. I find she tremendously ambitious. It's almost as ambitious as it is hard to watch.
Oh yeah, are we gonna start skipping Angel episodes? That's gonna be very confusing.
It's going to be very confusing. Yeah, but Angel is sort of front-loaded with the episodes that we may want to skip over, where Buffy's back season has the ones where it's kind of like, oh, more forest.
Oh yeah. Oh right. We were going into season 5, and it took me a second. I am very tired.
Wow, a whole bunch of people. Liz, welcome. Sarah, welcome back. Good to see everyone.
Hey, Brent.
I do have chat up. Oh my god, Bad Decisions Patreon Hangout crossover. Well, there's an interesting idea. I don't know if I can
I'm
endorse.
sorry I put that into the.
Let's get Jess involved. That'll be fun.
I'm so sorry.
I'll think about that. But what I want to do is put the. I'm gonna open up a thread on Patreon, throwing out some options for how we can manage this format starting next season, and hopefully you all can weigh in and just leave a comment, letting me know what you think and how we might go about managing the discussion going forward. We could keep this group strictly Buffy only, and then add an Angel group in the early afternoon, or whatever. I'm pretty flexible.
I think that's really smart. I think the biggest question then would be, how many episodes per hangout would you do? Would you continue to do 2 episodes per hangout? Because 2 episode hangouts, I feel like by the time you'd get to the second one, like for any of
You hit
us
a wall.
who did both, like the second half of the second one we might get a little burned out.
Yeah, I might be roasty toasty. But Sir Jack is here.
Hi.
Yay!
To occasionally stab me in the ribs and make sure that we keep things moving. So this is a big one.
But yes, if we're skipping episodes, so it's not always going to be episode 1 and episode 1.
Yeah, we wouldn't be in sync.
Yeah, separating them out might make a lot of sense. And then once we get to season 5 and season 2, we might be able to switch it up. But
yeah, so we might do one episode per month with a little break in between, something like that.
Also, we might end up talking about like one episode that's like very in depth. Sometimes, like if it's like a Restless or a 5x5 situation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 5x5 is like a 30-minute guide, so...
I don't think it's that long.
It's 22, it's almost 23 minutes.
Yeah, Restless is the one that's 30, whatever it is.
Something like 40.
So, we're at the end of Season 3. I can't believe that we've been doing this for as long as we have, and gotten this far. Good stuff. Let's go ahead and begin as we always do. If everyone could please mute your own microphone. I'm going to... well, hold on. Should we watch Graduation Day, both videos? That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be a big long break. We're gonna watch both videos back to back, and then we'll come back and just talk about Graduation Day as a whole. And another thing that I'm going to throw out in the Patreon post is whether or not maybe I do the video stream introduction before everyone joins the day of, so that you guys aren't sitting here just watching videos that you can go and watch without. But we can talk about that. Anyway, here we go. And sound. Speakers.
I'm empty-handed, but for Faith's knife.
That's the wrong one. That's the right one. The more you know.
For these two reviews, once again, I lean very heavily on Mark Field's wonderful book, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Myth, Metaphor, and Morality. If you haven't yet, go and pick it up on Amazon. It's a friggin' $1, and the Kindle application is on everything. It has taken me nearly a year to get us here, but this is it. Journey's End. Everything we've been talking about for an entire season coming to bear in a 2-part Whedon written and directed episode. Faith, Angel, Buffy and the Assorted Scoobies. Graduation Day. It's the end of high school, and the student body are following the traditional year-end ceremonies of gown collecting and yearbook signing. Everyone seems to be suffering from an end-of-the-year high that is smoothing over even the deepest hatreds.
Oh, I'm gonna miss her. Don't you hate her? Yes, with a fiery vengeance. She picked on me for 10 years. Vacuous tramp.
Xander shares the news that the mayor is set to be the commencement speaker at this year's graduation, and he is feeling especially fatalistic. Meanwhile, somewhere in town, Faith visits a prominent volcanologist and murders him. In a class later on, Anya makes another pass at Xander, and he pushes her back a little too severely, as is his wont.
I'm trying, okay? You don't need to take my head off.
Xander explains he's not thinking very far beyond the mayor's ascension, and Anya gets a distant look in her eye. Buffy discovers Faith's murder, and Anya and Xander stroll in.
You guys want to know about the Ascension? We'll meet the only living person who's ever been to one.
Anya explains the nightmare that an Ascension creates, a pure demon, and makes an important distinction in the Buffyverse lore.
You've never seen a demon. All the demons that walk the earth are tainted, are human hybrids like vampires. The Ascension means that a human becomes pure demon. They're different.
The mayor wanders casually into the library as though he'd done it 1,000 times. There's an interesting bit of general foreshadowing here that I like to think actually doesn't refer to the mayor.
The beast will walk upon the earth, and darkness will follow. The several...
Do you really think she's safe?
Buffy scoffs at the mayor and he threatens her.
I'm gonna eat her.
So awesome. I love every Ripper scene except the Dark Age. Of course, the mayor is presently invulnerable. He smiles, taunts again, and wanders out. Anya decides to skip town and runs away, and I have to admit, I'm especially happy we're now in a post-prom world, where Cordy and Xander abide each other again. Hellmouth veterans united. At home, Oz and Willow are looking for a spell to stop the Ascension. Will takes issue with Oz's lighthearted lack of panic over the Ascension and has a little rabble-rumble, begging Oz to panic with her.
What are you doing?
Panicking.
Buffy is investigating the death of the Vulcan, and Angel shows up to back her up. She's uncomfortable with the idea and pushes away from him as much as she can.
Are you just making this harder to make this easier on yourself?
I frickin' love that line. Human nature in a nutshell. Too much pain to know the house we both lived in is out there someplace. Easier to burn it to the ground. As the Bangel's speak kicks into full throttle, Angel takes an arrow to the back, and though it doesn't pierce his heart, something is wrong. At the mayor's office, Faith and the mayor are having a very touching talk.
And there was this one rock like 40 feet up. I was the only one that would jump off of it. All the older kids were too scared.
Not you, though.
One of the bizarre feats of this season is that somehow the relationship between these two big bads can feel moving and meaningful to me. Bizarre that a murderer and an impenetrable bad guy can inspire such warmth. But it isn't unsolvable. That's great writing and two wonderful performances. And while the mayor's character may be hard to understand, Faith has given us an empathetic anti-hero. Faith leaves and the mayor begins eating from the box of infinite bug monsters to bring about the Ascension. In the hallways that evening, Anya makes one last-ditch effort to make Xander come along with her. And as Angel falls into a deeper illness, Wesley explains that the council has refused to help cure a vampire, regardless of the circumstances. Here again, we get a vision of the intractable nature of institutional ethics rather than personal ethics, a conversation I brought up in Helpless, and Buffy decides that enough is enough.
I don't think I'm going to be taking any more orders. Not from you, not from them. I'm not working for them anymore.
This is mutiny.
I like to think of it as graduation.
The gang has found what ails Angel, a poison that agonizingly destroys the dead. Buffy decides that since Faith has set this table, then her blood can clear it and prepares for battle. Xander tries to point out she's talking about killing a souled, if slightly evil individual.
I just don't want to lose you.
I won't get hurt.
That's not what I mean.
Buffy shows up at Faith's, and the Slayer versus Slayer battle ensues.
Give us a kiss.
The Slayer on Slayer action is fantastic, though it kind of trades the, oh look, the stunt double problem for how does she fight with her hair in her face all the time? Hey, I can nitpick, it's the finale. The fight moves outside and Buffy wins the day. Or loses the day, badly, depending on your point of view.
Should have been there, B. Quite a ride.
I love this. Paired with Beck's notes, it's possible to interpret Faith's last words in a host of ways. There's the obvious bit with the truck coming along and Faith's ride on it to come. There's her life since Bad Girls that Faith wanted to share with Buffy. And as Twitter user GodAlmighty12 pointed out, there's Faith's jump from the cliff as a young girl she was sharing with the mayor earlier. One of the nice things about this two-parter is that unlike in previous two-parters, both parts represent distinct, meaningful steps in Buffy's journey that build on each other. Part 1, well, in let's say a couple of minutes of Part 2, is Buffy integrating her shadow self, once again, individuation. We've talked about this before with Buffy and Cordelia in Homecoming, but Carl Jung describes this as a lifelong process. And it's a concept that's been present throughout the season. Buffy and Cordy, Oz and his wolf, and now Buffy and Faith. Throughout the season, Faith has been trying to find the button to push that will make Buffy more like her. She did, and she pushed it with a poison arrow. And there is an insinuation that this battle represents the end of that seduction. It's a battle that Buffy can still lose, even if she wins.
What are you gonna do, B? Kill me? You become me.
I just don't want to lose you.
I won't get hurt.
That's not what I mean.
You told me I was just like you, but I was holding it in.
Ready to cut loose?
Try me.
Brandishing Faith's knife, dressed in similar dark apparel and on the verge of her first murder, it would seem her transition to Faith is nearly complete. Does this scene call into question Buffy's ethics, her attempt to murder another souled being and feed her to Angel? Well, the math is actually pretty fuzzy. To this point, Buffy has been responsible for the deaths of souled beings only indirectly and mostly through self-defense. In all cases, there were mystical forces at play. The zookeeper in the pack was possessed by the aggregate hyena spirit and was charging Buffy before she tossed him over her head into the hyena cage, and she removed Mrs. Post's Minigan-gloved arm, apparently unaware that there would be a lightning consequence. Keep in mind that, soul or not, the mystical is Buffy's purview. It's not as though the police will have any ability to keep Faith in check, and so on that basis, you could justify her actions based on duty alone. However, duty doesn't entail feeding your souled adversary to your poisoned honeypot. Thing is, in the end, these are all questions that don't require an answer. Faith doesn't die. In fact, whether it was one last act of spite or a first act of bravery since her turn, Faith's dive from the building onto the truck actually saves Buffy from turning into her.
Yeah, we don't need to watch that one. Okay, next.
Buffy leaves Faith's home empty-handed but for Faith's knife. This is not a moment of victory, and the music reminds us of that. Meanwhile, the mayor has come and is surveying the damage, obviously concerned for what might have happened to Faith.
But sir, the Ascension... Find them!
At the mansion, Angel's health continues to deteriorate to the point where he can't tell Willow from Buffy. Willow is fighting feelings of guilt as the horrors of the evening are self-evident. But her night with Oz...
In some ways, this is the best night of my life.
Buffy returns and asks for a moment alone with Angel, so she can force-feed him herself. There is a lot to this moment. It's significant that Buffy beats Angel's inner demon to the surface. He doesn't exactly surrender to what happens here easily. And there is the beautiful punctuation of the music. Whedon calls this scene their thinnest metaphor yet. I love the symmetry here of Angel and Buffy's first night together, the warm afterglow of which led to Angel's demise, and this moment which very nearly leads to Buffy's. Angel carries Buffy to the hospital, which begins a very Whedonific oneer, one long continuous shot. Upon discovering Faith's condition, the mayor loses control and attempts to suffocate Buffy. Angel keeps the mayor at bay, but crumbles beneath the withering gaze of the Scoobies as he explains he fed off of Buffy.
Well, it's just good to know that when the chips are down and things look grim, you'll feed off the girl who loves you to save your own ass.
Personally, I think Xander is mostly in the wrong here, as... And yet, unusually, I kinda love it. I love the drama of it and the setup here for Angel's departure. Buffy's shared dream with Faith is the actual completion of her dealing with this shadow self. Faith tells Buffy to take whatever she needs, which is the value of Jung's process. We don't destroy our dark sides. We acknowledge them, absorb them, ascend and become more than we are. Faith gives Buffy the final piece to defeat the mayor, his humanity. They touch and Buffy wakes, thanking Faith for the peace. Mostly I dislike the use of dreams in fiction, but it's no surprise that Buffy is the exception to the rule. Without spoiling, let's run through the details of the dream. There's what appears to be a large painting of a snake on the wall with a man's head. Faith called Buffy sister. In the dream, there's a cat she's wondering who will take care of. A she. Little Miss Muffet counting down from 730, and out the window, the dawn. Buffy finds the rest of the Scoobies, and through her completion with Faith, is now sure.
I'm ready.
After she shares her plan with the other Scoobies, they seem tentatively on board, but what else are they going to do to live through it? After some debate, Wesley returns. Buffy explains the council isn't welcome here.
I'm not here for the council.
The mayor and Buffy command their armies, Buffy gives everyone their assignments, and the movement filters down. Obviously, it's very important to bear in mind the student body acknowledgement of Buffy in the prom, as it directly relates to this episode. Finally, graduation occurs, and Snyder rings in the dramatic moment with his typical stunning sentimentality befitting such an event.
Congratulations to the class of 1999. You all proved more or less adequate.
Snyder introduces the mayor, who has been working on this particular graduation speech for 100 years, and he dives right in.
My God.
You know what, kids?
He's gonna do the entire speech.
However, mid-speech, the Ascension arrives just a smidge too early. The mayor becomes a giant demon snake, and his army of vampires flanks the students to try and provide him maximum feeding trough. Buffy and the students stare up at the demon hopelessly, and then...
Now!
You're on my campus, buddy. My predecessor, Mr. Flutie, may have gone in for all that touchy-feely relating nonsense, but he was eaten. And when I say I want quiet, I mean it.
Larry dies to a whiptail, Harmony gets turned into a vampire, and Buffy manages to grab the attention of the giant snake mayor with Faith's knife. Buffy leads the ragey mayor to the library, and then...
Well, gosh.
The Scoobies count themselves lucky.
There's a certain dramatic irony attached to all this. Synchronicity that borders on predestination, one might say.
It wasn't that bad.
You burned down the gym.
And Angel and Buffy, who have already had their goodbye dance, part ways. Beck can't help but make us feel moved by it, that jerk, even though I Will Remember You is only like 8 episodes away. So let's consider the Ascension from a metaphorical standpoint. There are more than a few layers here. The mayor intends to become a giant snake and consume the children, and what is to keep them caged and compliant are the mayor's vampire minions. In order to break that into component parts, you first have to understand that the mayor represents institutionalized control, not totally unlike the same systems of cultural control the Watchers Council represents that both Buffy and Giles freed themselves from in Helpless, and as evidenced by the mayor turning into a giant snake to consume the students.
You want to get it back from me? Dick.
Male-dominated. So then the Ascension is a sort of cultural indoctrination, and the children are to be consumed by those tedious, mindless, homogenized institutions into adulthood. Call the Ascension, then, the metaphorical shedding of individuality in the name of cultural homogeny, by a giant demon penis. Most of this is reflected in Faith and the mayor's relationship. Society seduces us through our dark desires, our anxieties and our compulsions, but in return demands our obedience.
You know, I'm beginning to think that somebody's getting a little spoiled. Maybe I should take this back.
Sorry.
You be careful. Not put somebody's eye out with that thing. Till I tell you to. If you failed me in that way, well, you know, replacing Mr. Trick was chore enough.
Oh, hey, shoes.
The mayor also expressed the Ascension in plain terms when he met Mr. Trick in Homecoming.
Children are the heart of a community. They need to be looked after, controlled. The more rebellious element needs to be dealt with.
The more rebellious element. So, let's talk about Buffy's rebellion. Dictionary.com defines rebellion as resistance to or defiance of any authority, control, or tradition. There have been rebellions against all of those leading up to this episode, and we've spoken at great lengths as to the absurdity of Buffy's life. And in Amends, I brought up Albert Camus' approach to the suffering of existing in a meaningless universe as a being who hungers for meaning. That is to embrace it and continue the hunt regardless. For more on that, go check out the Amends review. Building on that here, in his book The Rebel, Camus wrote, "In order to exist, man must rebel, but rebellion must respect the limits that it discovers in itself. In contemplating the results in an act of rebellion, we shall have to ask ourselves each time if it remains faithful to its first noble promise, or whether it forgets its purpose and plunges into a mire of tyranny and servitude." In Gingerbread, Joyce attempted an overthrow of the status quo, but she made a crucial mistake, according to Camus.
This isn't our town anymore. It belongs to the monsters and the witches and the slayers.
I think the missed point here is that slayers and monsters are a part of Joyce's world. As the blue sky or the unending metronomic crash of the ocean, Joyce has not accepted the absurdity of the universe, and from her actions come Moo and new forms of tyranny and control. Continuing from Camus' The Rebel, in absurdist experience, suffering is individual. But from the moment that a movement of rebellion begins, suffering is seen as a collective experience, as the experience of everyone. Therefore, the first step towards a mind overwhelmed by the absurdity of things is to realize that this feeling, this strangeness, is shared by all men, and the entire human race suffers from a division between itself and the rest of the world. In Amends and Gingerbread, Buffy accepted her plight to struggle in a battle that can never fully be won.
I do know it's important to keep fighting. I learned that from you.
But we never
win.
Not completely.
Never will. That's not why we fight. We do it because there's things worth fighting for.
And in earshot, she came to grasp that that was the plight of every individual in Sunnydale. The student body acknowledgement of her is really what began the rebellion, as the suffering of every student at Sunnydale was acknowledged as their collective experience.
We don't talk about it much,
But it's no secret that Sunnydale High isn't really like other high schools. A lot of weird stuff happens here.
Zombies!
Hyena people!
Snyder!
Solidarity. And so the student body's solidarity against institutionalized control wins the day. As an aside, Buffy also permanently uncouples herself from the Watchers' Council in yet another rebellion in Graduation Day Part 1.
This is mutiny.
I like to think of it as graduation.
What I love about all of this is that Whedon foreshadowed it in Anne, when Buffy was plunged into a hell where all her fears were manifest. Servitude, a life of toil, a life without identity, and hanging over it like a phantom, a fallen angel chained to the wall. And just like in Graduation Day, Buffy's willingness to stand up and rebel became an entire empowered movement.
Who are you?
I'm Buffy, the vampire slayer, and you are? Now!
In Dead Man's Party, at the height of the Scoobies' inner turmoil, they banded together to defeat the zombie horde, with Buffy inspiring the charge. And in Band Candy, the mayor brought a sacrifice of babies to a large snake demon to be eaten, a harbinger of his own ascension and the consumption of the Sunnydale High School graduates. Now, there's the topic of Angel, who departs from Sunnydale rather messily. The scene in the mansion at the beginning of the episode is nothing but gray area. Sure, he was weakened, and Buffy beat his inner demon to the surface, but he still didn't have to drink. And once he'd tasted her, he appears to have a vampiric relapse, and a binge that goes on through a haunting shot. Just a little longer than it should have. As was brought up in Amends, Angel's self-control is always in doubt. To say nothing about drinking the blood of a slayer, which has been shown in other seasons to have profound effects on vampires.
Oh, God. The power.
With these questions hanging over his head, Angel leaves Sunnydale for his own show. Another significant theme throughout this season has been the love of the unredeemed and the soulless. Spike and Drusilla, Pete and Debbie, and now the Mayor and Faith. It would be easy to use their roles as mustachio-twisting bad guys to invalidate their affections for each other as manifestations of dependency or their own broken pathology. Easier on a simpler show, maybe. But on Buffy, nothing is simple. And who's to say that the love between our good guys is devoid of compromise? Mostly, the Mayor is sort of impenetrable. We don't know exactly why he does the things he does, and it's unclear why exactly he developed such a deep affection for Faith. It might have been possible that the Mayor was manipulating her, giving her the illusion of what she wanted in order to gain her as an ally. But in the hospital, in the episode's beginning, he is obviously distraught over her injuries, raging. In fact, Buffy's entire plan to destroy him hinges on his love for Faith. I think then Whedon has clearly stated in this episode that the bad guys can love, if not wisely. And even so, it isn't really necessary to reduce it to such a level. It's a simple joy to watch two people care for each other, even if they're the only two people they both care for.
So you'll still need me in there?
Always.
Season 3 is without a doubt one of the strongest in the series, but in working on it for the guide, I think it suffers a little bit from having an abundance of riches. There is too much good crowding the screen for space. I wanted more. From the very beginning, I wanted to see and feel more of Buffy's journey back into the light. I wanted more of the braggalicious Dark Slayer and more Spike, and to know more about the Watchers' Council and the Slayer mythology outside of Sunnydale. And more tone-deaf Anya affections, please. Oh well, we take what we can get. Mostly I wanted more of Harry Groner's sinfully charming Mayor Wilkins, and his relationship with Faith that is both infested and honest, just like his graduation speech. In an interview, Whedon said the mayor's speech was a chance to use the big bad in order to say something that he actually meant about what the show has been about. A journey. Meaningful not simply for its completion, but for the things that happened along the road.
All right, just a moment. Switching sound back. And having a brain fart. There we go. And then season 4 actually opens with the mayor's speech, but that's for a different discussion. Now, Stop screen sharing. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, that was quite a bit of video watching. What I might do, depending, I'll include this in the Hangout discussion that I'll put up sometime this weekend. But I may do a rewatch of the video before the Hangout so that we can just kind of jump into the discussion, and then anyone who wants to can show up for that video rewatch. But that would solve the problem of the enormous videos not eating up your guys' time, especially when you're tired after work. So, man, there's a lot to cover. Maybe we should have actually done those in 2 parts. Sarah, help me out.
Oh, yeah, where to begin? That is a beautiful video, Ian. Yeah.
I was thinking that too.
Especially all the meaning stuff at the end. It's so good. These are 2 excellent episodes. I don't know. Okay, I'll be a cliche. So the costume.
Yeah.
Well, there is Buffy dressing in not only in Faith's clothes at the end there, or looks like Faith's clothes, but
Hang on one sec. Someone is typing, and the sound of your typing is hitting the microphone. If you could mute yourself, I would appreciate it. Dankeschön. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, when they have the fight scene, Buffy's red leather pants and black top are a mirror of the black top and leather pants and red leather pants that Faith wore when we first see her. They're not identical. Hers has like snakes on them, Faith's, but they are. It's
and the dangly bits on the top. I love that
on the boob window.
So much.
Yeah, in that scene, she is officially all dressed up in Big Sister's clothes.
She is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the touch that the pants match the licorice that Faith has.
Yeah, someone pointed that out to me after the fact. In the scene where in the opening shot that begins the scene, Faith is in bed reading a Valiant comic book and eating a red licorice, and in comes Buffy wearing red pants, and oh my gosh, was I upset for the missed opportunity to not just ring the subtext bell, but to annihilate the subtext bell in that moment. Yeah, that's a wonderful detail.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, and I love Anya and the whole Barfy feelings thing. It's so sweet.
By the way, go ahead, sir. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I still think the mayor's love for Faith feels like the love of a dog.
Yeah, ever since I think it was during the, I can't remember, consequences or choices. Maybe? Yeah, the discussion that took place in the cafeteria.
The consequences was pre-mayor.
Yeah.
Sorry, are you saying that Faith looks at the mayor like she's the like a dog does, or that he sees it as doting on a puppy?
He treats her like a dog.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, you're right about that.
Just to the reference, Sarah brought that up when we were talking about the exchange for the box of Gavrok and Willow. In the scene, the mayor only talks to Angel in the entire scene. He only talks to her, and I believe that was where you started to mention the way he speaks to Faith and the way she responds to him.
Yeah, it is very much like dog and master, and he gives a speech in that episode about the love of a dog, and it's supposed to be like he's talking about Faith, or like he's talking about Buffy, but really he's talking about Faith and how unquestioningly loyal she is to him. And yeah, he's very patronizing, and he does sort of treat her like a pet.
Yeah, another cookie. Now that still seems like treats to me. Oh boy.
Can I dress you up in a dress and tell you you don't know what your style is?
Yeah, no, you don't know who you are. Nobody knows who you are.
Which isn't necessarily inaccurate, though, but whatever.
Yeah.
Walt, welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
Tell me about graduation day 1 and 2. By the way, one thing I want, that was something I meant to say. We have developed this format where we sort of run through the video. I sort of do a little setup and then sort of pass the mic to anyone. And I just want to emphasize, Jack reminded me to mention this. If you are just here to hang out and to be among fellow Buffy Angel lovers and don't really have anything to say about the episode, totally cool. That is never a problem. And I don't want, for any patrons that might be watching, I don't want this format and style that we've come up with to deter you from coming to hang out. And the other thing, too, is, if you ever have questions for me or off-topic things, us getting to all hang out and chat is also part of the purpose of this. So that's not off the table either. But anyway, I just wanted to make that clear. Okay, Walt, go ahead. I apologize.
Yes. So, I would say it was interesting watching the part 1 video again. Because with Buffy kind of being absorbed by, becoming Faith, her shadow self, throughout the episode. It's interesting that they chose that moment to have her withdraw from the council, and tell Wesley to leave.
Do you think that it contradicts the statement?
No, I don't think it contradicts the statement. I think it's within the statement. But it's interesting that a lot of the things she does in that episode are irrational for the most part. Going after Faith at the end of the episode is her losing herself almost, as Xander says. But
right.
The idea getting rid of Wesley is something that she's been building to all season, and it works very well. And it's a necessary point in her character growth. So I think that's maybe the kind of absorbing almost the most correct elements of Faith. That Faith is earlier in the season is anti-authority and sees the Watchers Council as ridiculous and outdated, which it is. And as the season's gone on, Faith has grown more wedded to a patriarchal authority figure, Wilkins, while Buffy has gone against that and become more like the original Faith in some ways.
Yeah, building off of what Sarah mentioned and the dog treats another cookie, I'm now reminded of the line, every time Giles tells me to do something and I get a cookie. Only she's saying it sarcastically. The mayor literally gives Faith a cookie, and I wonder, that seems too on the nose to be accidental to me. Emily, go ahead.
I think in that line, Buffy also mentions that Giles asks nicely or something like that. It's not just that she gets a cookie. She specifies
they're equals.
Yeah, she specifies that he asks her nicely, or he says please or something like that, and then she says, and then I get a cookie. So it's still a parental thing.
Well, I think the line specifically isn't just intended to mock the way Wesley is being with her, where it is literally occurring between Faith and the mayor. Very interesting connection. Go ahead, Walt.
But that was about it. Just that they're kind of growing into the kind of versions of each other throughout the season. But Faith is kind of embracing the worst aspects of both herself and the Watchers Council relationship. And Buffy eventually, by the end of this two-parter, embraces the best elements of herself and working as a team with the entire student class while rebelling against the repressive hierarchy that is the Watchers Council.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about it, and it's just interesting how I kind of forgotten about the Wesley plot in these 2 episodes. It's kind of interesting how it interacts with both overthrowing the mayor and with Buffy versus Faith.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, that's all I had. I hadn't watched the episodes in a while. Oh, and Oz is, I think, hands down the best first love interest of the series.
Agreed.
Like I'm not sure if there's anyone who can compete.
Yeah, there's something about what are you doing? Panicking? That is so just hot.
Yes.
In one of your videos, we should all be so lucky as to be rejected by Oz.
Yeah, that's yeah, I don't remember which one that is,
I
but
don't remember which one it is. It's the one where they go to
where they hang out at the military compound.
Yeah, they go to
and they wait in the car.
oh yeah,
Oh, that too. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that moment is poetry.
Yeah.
He gets some of the best lines in the show.
Sometime in season 2, post Innocence.
For a man with so few lines, he gets some of this one.
It might have
go
been
ahead.
Innocence.
Go ahead, Liz. Yeah. Oh, by the way, welcome. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I think I'm so mad because it's just a reference in a scene, but I'm so mad because when Angel is delirious, he thinks Willow is Buffy. And then afterwards, Willow meets Oz, and he's like, "You too, huh?"
It's so
And I'm
good.
so mad that we never get to see Angel take Oz's hand softly in his own and be like, "I'm so glad you're here," and Oz be like, "Yeah."
Yeah, to see Angel tenderly rub his hand against his face would
Yes.
be lovely.
I want to know if Oz plays along. If he gives Angel that moment of yes, I am Buffy, or if Angel.
Why, yes,
No.
I would be Buffy.
Yeah, but you can imagine.
Buffy is all of us.
You can imagine Oz doing that. No
Would
problem,
you like
dude.
to lie to you now?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Liz, welcome. Tell me about graduation day 1 and 2.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I usually do. Most of them are queer because that's how I do. But but I thought I'd start with something else because I've noticed. I'm just looking at my notes.
Yeah, all good.
I noticed 3 particular what's it called? Not references, but almost parallels.
Okay.
And one of them has to do with clothes, so I'm gonna ask Sarah about that because Buffy's outfit in most of the episodes, starting with in the library, she's back to wearing the grey sweater and the almost army pants, and she has quite heavy mascara, and that outfit is so reminiscent of alternate Buffy's in The Wish. That I just thought because it's such a military outfit and it's so ungirly, and it's not the same outfit, but I just wanted to know if you noticed that at all.
I didn't have time to rewatch this time.
Sorry,
I was trying to read. Yeah.
And I was sick for a whole month.
I had some clothes thoughts if anyone wanted to hear about that.
Well, yeah,
it's a great observation. Yes, it's very noticeable.
Well, hang on one sec, Boris. And I think too that Wish Buffy was definitely intended to be a symbol for the way in which she would sort of wander into being like Faith. So it wouldn't surprise me that the visual parallel was intended.
Yeah, it's war Buffy, but this one, because it's our Buffy, is a little bit softer and a little bit less intense.
Sure.
But I thought, especially with the eye makeup, I noticed a difference, and I don't usually. But I also thought there was a really interesting parallel to how Joyce and Buffy talked to each other about slaying in this finale, as opposed to the season 2 finale, and the way that they had both matured so much.
Absolutely.
That they were able to talk properly about it, and that Buffy could say, "No, actually, you need to go, and you need to trust me with this," or you're going to get me killed.
Well, and one of the
because I just made it.
I apologize. One of the
No,
I just wanted to highlight in that regard, one of the ones that people have gotten on me for not mentioning is the way in which Faith or Buffy coming out as the Slayer to her mom had lots of gay parallels. Have you tried not being the Slayer? The way Joyce reacted to it had a similar sort of reference to that kind of experience, and so it's like you mentioned you had comments along those lines, and to me that's as you said, that's progress. It's really good stuff.
yeah. So I was really happy about that, and I don't know. I mean, it's very the whole fight scene is very queer. It's super queer. You even highlighted that in the episode. I think what's really interesting is there are several scenes that aren't sexual that has this sort of uncomfortable sexual undertone to it.
Like what?
Like
The
even
scene?
the first for example, when Faith kills Lester, there is this uncomfortable intimacy in the way that she kills him and the way that uh, she kind of moves. And there's something about, and I think that's with Faith's character, that she seems to conflate sex and violence, or perhaps sex and murder, in a way that's very uncomfortable to watch. And I think that's part of why the fight sequence with Buffy is so laden with innuendo as it is, because for Faith, violence is more intimate than sex, because we see that in, like, when she has consensual sex with someone, like for example Sander, it's very not intimate for her, at least in an emotional way, and fighting is.
That's lovely. I mean, I hadn't thought about that, the way her intimacy emerges for her through violence in that scene. And that occurred to me while I was watching it this time too, was certainly there's been another appearance from someone who conflates sex and violence this season, and that would be Spike, who draws that comparison. I'm going to find her up, tie her up, and torture her wherever she is until she likes me again. But even Buffy, in season 4, once she's dating Riley, she and Willow are walking through the graveyard, and Buffy's saying something's missing, and Willow says, he's not making you miserable? And she says, yeah, I guess I feel like love has to be tainted with all this monstrous upheaval and whatever. Vampire jumps up, stabs him. I wonder where I get that from, and then walks out of the graveyard, which makes a lot of people in Sunnydale. What is with violence and sex for these people in Sunnydale? These people have problems.
No, it could be anything.
Can I also mention the one time we see Faith experience sexual intimacy, she freaks out because she's when she's Buffy, she has sex with Riley, she freaks out. So yeah.
Yeah, when intimacy kind of rears its head for her in the bedroom, which is something she very much avoids. She has that panic attack. What do you want from her? She says, what do you want from, meaning what does Riley want from Buffy? Like it's a trick or a lie.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like I think the difference between Spike and Faith on that, I'd say, is that Spike feels entitled to it, and Faith does not. She feels like she should be denying herself that, like, healthy relationship.
Well,
or any relationship, really.
Yeah, I think there's a difference for all of them in that situation. It's just weird that, they all got to the same place by way of different paths.
Well,
right, yeah.
Emily, go ahead.
So, comment the Spike Faith, I don't know if the people watching this heard, but I am very tired. I apologize. Guys, please let me know if I stop making sense. So first of all, both the thing that uh, Jack just mentioned and uh, the other stuff we were talking about with Faith conflating intimacy with violence, and like not just sex with violence, but intimacy as well, which doesn't necessarily mean sex. It like, and then on top of that, the freak out that she has with Riley and saying, "What do you want from her?"
Yeah, that's so specific.
Like, there's such clear hallmarks of abuse. They're just such clear and very specific. And the thing with Riley, so specific, just such a specific hallmark of abuse. And and like in that one scene, it's like you can extrapolate exactly what type of abuse that she's experienced in all these different ways. And with the mayor, it like that too. That relationship too is a form of intimacy. And for Faith, any sort of intimacy, at least with men, it's not free. It's never free. She always has to do something for it, and usually the thing isn't particularly pleasant. And she's clearly done something for herself psychologically to make herself feel okay with having to do things that she doesn't necessarily want or doesn't necessarily like, and convince herself that she does, which is how she can, like, the first time we see her murder someone for the mayor, it's a demon, and
Sure.
she flips the fuck out. And then goes to Angel and tries to manipulate Angel, and it gets weird. But I do truly believe that, like, but like in that scene when the demon's on top of her, whatever, like, she's scared. And then we see her kill a human being in part one, and she's in a very different mental state, a very different place, attitude wise in regards to that. And so somehow she has done something psychologically, either repressed something or compartmentalized something, so that she can continue to receive affection or intimacy, at least as she views it, from this person.
Yeah, chat is pointing out two things that I wanted to highlight. The first is that Faith makes the parallels literal in her introduction. Isn't it weird how slaying always makes you hungry and horny? Well, I do sometimes want a non-fat yogurt. And the other thing about the mayor and Faith's relationship is he very specifically puts the damper on anything being what he would see as inappropriate early on. Now, Faith, I'm not into that. I'm a family man, which, given her relationship to sex and intimacy, probably was one of the more one of the things that endears her to him quickly early on,
and probably makes her think that, and like I'm totally, I might be out of line, but considering what we've seen of Faith's past and her attitude about sex and her attitude towards men, and then, you know, with our foreknowledge of the way she reacts to the situation with Riley, being told that this relationship with the mayor is not going to be sexual, point blank, is almost makes it more dangerous in a way for her psychologically, because it means that from her experience, like, there is no way that she's going to interpret it as abuse, because it seems like this sort of things that she's been asked to do and the ways that she's been manipulated by men before in unhealthy ways have probably always involved sex. And so not only do I think she's conflated sex / intimacy with violence, I think she has also conflated sex and intimacy.
Let me throw back to Liz.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention this too, and I agree with you, Emily. And I think one of the things that I noticed on this rewatch, which I think makes Faith's relationship with the mayor even more layered and sinister in a way uh, is that when they're talking about the ascension, he says, let's see, when she's in the frilly little dress that's very girlish and very almost infantilizing, especially with the way he acts towards her.
That is exactly
And he's
what I was saying.
yeah, and he says, you look perfect for ascension, and then just a moment later, he says, it's your day to blossom,
Interesting.
which is that is a divergent metaphor if I've ever heard one. And with this sort of foreknowledge of Faith having gone into this relationship knowing that it's not going to be sexual, and then hearing that the day of ascension is her day to blossom, which could then mean an implication that this is when it can become. There's just that there's a lot. It's bad. It's bad.
Information is like her like he's ascending to something, but he's also conflating that with like her becoming a woman. I'm using the word conflating too much.
It's a good word.
Thank you. He's also like compare like as though they're both moving on to this next step in life, and the like, but also like so like him turning into a giant penis monster is also the moment in which he reaches like maturity, and like I don't know.
It's a lot.
Is there anything else I need to say about this? Sorry, Liz. Continue.
No, I agree. And that there's something I don't know if anyone else has any other, but I've never understood when Faith is stabbed by Buffy. She has this weird reaction, like she smiles. She looks almost relieved. She looks like pleasantly surprised, like, "Oh, you finally noticed me," and says, "You should have been there, B. Quite a ride," before she falls. And there's I don't know how to put my finger on it, but it's almost as if this is Fate's out of that of this ascension, of this blossoming of her own, because this fight is so metaphorically intimate with Buffy, so that ironically when Buffy stabs her, that's a moment of penetration. That's the moment when they're properly connected, when Faith knows that Buffy, like, she is the only thing on Buffy's mind right at that moment. And then she's like, yeah, it's fine. And she doesn't fall, she dives, which also reminds me of her story of the quarry, of her bravery, because she was the only one who was brave enough to dive. And it's almost as if Buffy penetrating her, such an uncomfortable word, is what she needs to like find herself and be like, yeah, I am still that brave person. Goodbye. And that like kickstarts her story. I don't know, but yeah.
I think, if you don't mind, I think there's something in that smile that she has right after Buffy stopped her. On the "You should have been there, be quite a ride." That I think part of her still wishes that things could have worked out with Buffy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that would be. Go ahead. I apologize.
I think without that moment of like, and like, you know, we are talking about how screwed up Faith's psychology is, and boy, is it screwed up. But there's a moment where where she clearly feels like with that stabbing, she feels a connection to Buffy. That she hadn't before, and it seems like this is the first time that she recognizes that the potential for that connection is truly there, and that it's possible, and it is possible for it to be genuine, and it sort of because Buffy is stabbing Faith because she sees. So just go with me for a second. Because she sees, sorry, that was my phone. Because she sees value in Faith, because she needs Faith. You know, like, I mean, she needs Faith to die to save her boyfriend, but Faith is, but like Liz said, like, Faith is what is on Buffy's mind in that moment, and just Faith. And she needs Faith for Faith, and for no other reason.
Right.
You know, like, I'm oversimplifying just a little bit, but I also think that because we're then going into the shared dream sequences, which I'd love to talk about because I love those, and because they continue into season 4. There's the empathy and the assistance that Faith's subconscious has for Buffy, and provides Buffy, I think wouldn't be possible. Like I think something in that moment of the stabbing unlocks that.
Absolutely, I think that's definitely the case. I always thought about one of the weird things I picked up on this time that I failed to mention in the review was it's one of the by stabbing Lester. The mayor gave everyone the ability to beat him, or rather, by sending Faith to kill Lester. If he hadn't done that, the mayor.
Lester's the volcanologist.
Lester's the Vulcan.
Okay.
Yeah. If
Wesley points that out.
Yeah, if he had not sent Faith to go and kill the Vulcan, then he would have won. And I, watching the scene this time, I started thinking about why does this scene then exist? Because it didn't, the way it's set up in terms of just the arc and the plot and all of that, it feels like there's some aspect of contrivance to it. But then I started thinking about the symmetry of the episode opening with Faith stabbing someone and the episode ending with Buffy stabbing her. And I think that's absolutely why that scene is in there, rather than, say, the Scoobies doing research. Oh my god, there was a giant snake monster back in the day. Or Anya disclosing to them that how to kill the demon, or what have you. It's to have that parity between the two of them and to tie them together through that act of violence. Or at least that's how it emerged to me.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. No, go ahead.
There's also there's a sense of purity in that moment, and I think what Emily said was really interesting, because I think Faith's sense of self and sense of self-worth is so minuscule that she needs to be useful in order to feel like she's needed. So much that even with the mayor, who is at this point her closest ally and friend, if you will, once he's done with her, she tells him, well, you have to give me something else. I have to keep being useful for you, because she doesn't know what to do with herself when she's not being directly useful to anyone. And when Buffy stabs her, firstly, she is useful just by being there. She doesn't have to do anything because Buffy just needs her. And perhaps more importantly, because what Buffy needs is just her, and Faith has the option of removing herself by choice that's actually her first. That's her first choice of of finding her own self-worth, because she tells Buffy, "I'm still not gonna save your boyfriend," and that's her choice. She's like, "Yeah, she just needs me for me. She can't have it," and because I mean there are some, like Jesus implications or something up there. There's like a moment of uh benevolence or benediction almost over her falling down, and I think that's
Well, which is very fitting, of course.
beautiful. I want good.
Martyr, like
Oh
a
yeah, oh yeah,
is that what you're getting at?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think almost not really martyrdom, but more of oh God, what's it called? When when the priest puts your head in water as a child.
Baptism.
My brain is baptism. Thank you. It's 2 a.m. here. Yeah, it's almost like a the full-on baptism kind, where you're just fallen down and you let go of all of your sins, and in a way it doesn't work because that's not how it works. But
Right.
in that moment, there's like a freeing thing for her. So, yeah.
It's almost as if every Slayer has a death wish. But we don't have to.
That's so insightful. I wonder if anyone's ever said that before.
Exactly. And all credit to chat for that comment, by the way. I just wanted to read that out, but I missed who said that. I apologize.
I had some theories.
It's you point out that by killing the volcanologist or sending her to kill the volcanologist, he's sowing seeds of his own destruction. Faith is also doing the same. She's the one who used the poison that she's the cure for.
Well,
yeah.
I had a question about that, where it's like, did she know that the cure existed in that way? That it was specifically that it had to be a Slayer?
I don't think so.
I don't think Faith knew what she was doing. I think she was just doing something she was told to do.
Yeah, when Buffy shows up, when Buffy shows up to her room at the end of the episode, Buffy says, "There's a cure," and she says, "Really? What is it?" And Buffy says, "Your blood," and that creates a stunned pause for a moment, which to me indicates she clearly didn't know what the cure was.
And also, like, sorry, just real quick, the mayor thinks that the Scoobies and company are so stupid. He has zero confidence in them. So I think, because he's not stupid. So I think the idea for him that, like, they would ever be able to extrapolate from the fact that he wanted this guy killed, that there would be a reason he wanted him to, and all that stuff. I think, like, it's whether it's slightly contrived or not, the parallel between the beginning and the end of the episode is nice, but also it feels completely in character for the mayor to be like, yeah, go kill him.
Yeah, that's fair. Walt, it can be a little difficult for people not on camera to get our attention. I apologize that the conversation goes fast. It sounded like you had something you wanted to throw out.
Oh, I was you're probably right, because I'd forgotten about the stun silence thing. But even if it doesn't know that the poison is has her as the cure, it kind of fits into her self-destructive pattern, and she kind of she doesn't object to Buffy coming after her, because it kind of fits into her idea that she's been trying to get at Buffy's inner anger this entire time. I guess she sees Buffy as somewhat of a shadow self in the same way Buffy sees her as a shadow self. So she goes after. She kind of almost wants Buffy to come after her.
Oh, I think she definitely does. Yeah.
Right. So even if she doesn't know about that particular poison, I think thematically it still works for her character.
Gotcha. The other thing I love about that scene, which I failed to mention, is that the visual pun of Faith or Angel getting injured by Faith, who is standing in the sign that says "Sun." So both
Yeah.
Faith and the wah wah. I just I that thing is there in previous
Great.
episodes, but I love that.
I never noticed that.
Also, like, awkward stunt double hiding aside, the fight choreography in that scene is so great.
It's one of the more epic fights for sure, as it should be.
Yeah, especially as someone who, I mean, I don't do it for camera, but I have much experience with stage combat, and it's really well done, and it's really excellent, and just very impressive and interesting, and I'm gonna just lots of superlatives.
Yeah, I think I'm going to actually use YouTube's tools to cut that stinger from the end of that video. It's neither funny nor entertaining to me, and I think kind of undermines the work. There's a stinger on that. Not a big fan.
It's the Slayer ballet stunt double.
Oh, the Slayer ballet, yeah. Also, the glove of Minnigan, because you talked about Buffy being at least somewhat complicit in killing humans. The glove of Minnigan thing makes her arm getting chopped off and then, oh my god, lightning. Like, it makes no sense. The glove of Minnigan is horrible. And it makes no sense.
Yeah.
That episode has some wonderful things, but that is not one of them.
Even that to me is one of those done is better than perfect moments when they were writing the script. It's like, well, okay. The glove takes revenge and fries her. Boom, we're done. Yeah. I just want to make sure we get everyone a chance to speak. I actually do have to have a hard stop in 45 minutes.
Oh.
And this is a big group. I'm very excited how many people showed up to the end here. So I just want to make sure everyone gets a chance to chat. Russell.
Hey, Ian.
Hello, sir.
How's it going?
Good, good. Welcome back.
Thank you. Graduation 1 and 2. Let's see, from Oz to Willow to Anya, Xander, obviously Faith and Buffy, which everyone's been talking about. Wesley and Cordy's kiss moment.
Yeah, I didn't even mention. Some stuff doesn't.
It's so weird and gross.
Not worth mentioning.
Yeah, some stuff doesn't get mentioned in the guides because there's just not really anything else to say.
Not safe for parting gifts.
Is there a button for that moment from Bad Eggs? Because that's that kiss. That is also my reaction every time you press the Riley face button.
I like that they made it gross and weird and not at all nice. Because if it was the other way, I would have been like, no.
Well, the thing about
don't do that.
the thing about that scene too is the kiss doesn't occur once, but twice. I mean,
again.
Yeah,
made the attempt.
Well, maybe that was a misfire. Let's go again and. Well, have a safe trip.
That's never brought up on Angel, is it?
No, it is brought up in parting gifts.
It is.
Oh,
Like
okay.
right after Cordy kisses him.
Yeah, Cordy kisses him again. Yeah.
Yeah, and she says it didn't work because she's trying to give him the visions, and he says, I thought it went rather well, better than the last time.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I remember now. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Russell.
I lost my train of thought there.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. With that final showdown between Faith and Buffy, I'm reminded of another show, for lack of spoilers here, but basically they tell a certain character that, during his training, forget logic, whatnot, and just the kill. And I always think of this moment with Buffy when she fights Faith, just the kill. And I can see that scene very clearly. I think of Ted, I think of Miss Post, I think of future events, and death is our gift. And is Buffy the hero that Giles makes her out in the episode Gift? But again, I'm getting way ahead of myself.
Well, I don't think so, and it's okay. I don't think there's anyone in this stream, or rather in this hangout, that has not watched the whole series. And just a word of warning to anyone in the YouTube stream: this is a completely spoiled conversation about the show, but there are actually a lot of parallels to I think between Graduation Day Part 1 or Part 1 and 2 and The Gift
And Chosen.
And you're right in terms of, and Prophecy Girl. I mean, the idea of sacrificing herself for the cause comes up over and over and over again. So I think that's very on point, Russell.
Thank you. I think that's all I got. I mean, Adios Schneider. I didn't understand why the mayor just turned on him, or why Snyder even turned on the mayor. I mean, he'd been faithful.
I don't think Snyder realized that he was dealing with a Snake Man person.
He watched the transformation.
Yeah,
but he knows.
You can eat children, just don't be disorderly about it.
Yeah,
I was thinking about Snyder, and I'm like, oh, I wish he didn't die. But then, like, how would he have fit into the next season? It just wouldn't have worked. So he kind of had to go.
Yeah, he's one of the saddest losses, though, for me. Armin's incredible.
No, but like, because okay, you remember? I don't remember exactly what he says about Principal Flutie, but like,
it was Eden.
Yeah, no, I'm aware that Principal Flutie was eaten, but like, Snyder must know that that's what happened when he comes to be the principal of Sunnydale, and
he does.
And yeah, but his like, he just says, but basically he blames Principal Flutie getting eaten on the fact that Principal Flutie was like too nice.
Yeah. Well, maybe the logic is that because Snyder was the kind of person that would like morally compromise and like cover things up, he was more ahead of the game, and that way he wouldn't like get eaten, but then he does get eaten.
I think Snyder just wanted to be an agent of order in a world of entropy. Like I think he genuinely believed that if he could just keep things orderly, then it would be fine. Like you see it, the first episode we see Spike as well. He tries so hard to keep. He's so lawful neutral that he doesn't care about people getting eaten. He's just like, no, that's not happening because according to the rules that I have set, this wouldn't be happening. And I guess that's why he turns on the mayor in the end, because the mayor becomes an agent of chaos, and that's unacceptable in Snyder's eyes.
Well,
and then they eat him because...
Yeah, I don't think Snyder could even consider a possibility that he would be eaten. Like, I don't think that was... I think Snyder's very much like, that's impossible. That cannot happen.
Well,
like, in his worldview, like, he doesn't even back away when when the mayor like comes down to eat him. He cannot even imagine himself being eaten in that moment. Like, he is. It's actually the one moment where I just love Snyder, because it's just like, is to be so deluded, basically.
Well, or he's having a full-on mental breakdown, panic attack in that moment as well. But I love, I again, getting back to my addiction to symmetry, I just love, my previous must have gone in for all that touchy-feely crap, but he was eaten.
I brought it up before, too, how I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity that... Snyder alludes to the fact that he knows about the Hellmouth, but it doesn't really go anywhere. I think that was kind of a wasted.
Yeah,
I think it just goes to show like how far over his head in he is. That all like this fearsome authority figure can do is try and do damage control. The best example of this is probably in the scene with the deal in Choices, when he says, "Why can't you just be dealing drugs like normal people?"
I love that.
Like he is at home in his like tamping down on rebellious students mode, but he knows about the Hellmouth and just can never do anything about it. So I think it works.
Okay.
I think he's just the epitome of the archetype of the non-supernatural person in a supernatural world who tries to fix supernatural things in a non-supernatural way. Like, because Buffy is a slayer, she is a supernatural thing. That means she is an agent of chaos in his mind. Therefore, the way to stop the chaos is to get her expelled from the school. Like because that's how he sees it. Because wherever she goes, chaos leads, or rather, she goes there because chaos was already there. But to him, if he can just remove the agent of chaos, whether she's the cause of it or not, that means order is restored. So I love Snyder.
Yeah.
Farewell, Snyder. I think for non-canon purposes, it's just a way to deal with the human element without having the Slayer deal with it. Makes you wonder what happens to Tucker in the prior episode. We know what happens to Ethan Rayne later down the line. You know, the human characters that are villains. You know, you can't have the Slayer kill them. So what do you do with them? And Snyder got Eden. So
Jack.
Yes, sir.
Any thoughts on Graduation Day 1 and 2?
I don't have a ton to say, honestly. I think Graduation Day as a whole, part 1 and 2, is probably one of the most exciting of the finales. Like the action and everything, it's just a lot of fun. And it's one of my favorites. I would rate Grave, which is my absolute favorite, and Becoming Part 2 above. So this would be third place. I noticed. So Buffy, she goes and talks to Xander, Oz, and Willow, and they're trying to research the poison and the cure. And then she finds out that the only way to cure it is to drain the blood of a Slayer. In between that scene and her going to kill Faith, there is a scene where I think she's in like a change room at the school, and she's looking into a mirror.
Yeah, there's
and
a mirror with Lost.
Yes,
with
yes.
sea animals.
Yeah. And I was
interesting.
wondering if that was a bit of subtext, because she is kind of lost in the sense that she's about to go and kill a human being, which, I mean, albeit it's an evil human being, but it's still a human being. So I wonder if that's a little subtext. I'm not sure.
That's a great catch. I've never noticed that before.
Yeah. And the sea creatures or whatever it is, I thought they were dragons. I couldn't quite
It
tell.
was like a seahorse, one of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's relevant at all, but I just thought, yeah, the word lost might have something to do with it, or a little subtext. But yeah, other than that, it's just great, and I like it.
Emily.
Yeah. So, one little weird thing. So, the mayor's last words that will never be remembered because nobody was there to hear them.
Oh gosh.
Well, gosh.
It's so Richard. So Richard.
Because of the
It's like one of those voice modifiers.
But it's like this weird, like, the transformation isn't even complete yet, maybe?
Well, he does say it takes a little while to take.
Yeah.
Which is why he has to eat.
He also hasn't fed yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like that. The whole hospital sequence with the one shot and the mayor coming in and then trying to kill Buffy, and
very forgiving
this moment, like the entire hospital sequence is just, it's so smooth and it's so like, I mean, the oneer is smooth, but like even despite that, but it's so solid.
Yeah.
And also, I think that cinematically, in terms of the oneer and the transition, it sort of echoes the very beginning of the episode when Buffy is climbing down from Faith's balcony, which is kind of a generous term for it. It's not really a balcony. If you have to smash through a window to get to it, it's not a balcony. But wherever they were fighting, and then like a very smooth pan to the mayor in the window. And like, you know that those things can't have happened in that time sequence, but this very smooth, like, movement of like it can't have been that quick because someone would have noticed her.
Why-
someone would have noticed her. She looks like he's been standing there for at least a second.
Dumber things have happened.
And so it's this weird distortion of time in that moment, but it's really beautiful, and I really love that moment and love that transition. There's something about it that I can't quite articulate.
Yeah, I do love the famous line is that he said he was
Find her!
He was going to use his opportunity. Whedon said he was going to use his opportunity to direct the episodes as his own personal film school. And it is wonderful to see that develop. And again, I think they are just as much a fan of symmetry with Anne opening with that oneer, and then there being a oneer in Graduation Day Part 2, the echoes between the two of them. Go ahead, Emily. I'm sorry.
From the council, I think, is also like, yeah, it makes sense. When you graduate high school, you move away from your, like, traditionally you move away from your parents, and maybe you go to college, maybe you don't, but you move away from home. And so the her phrasing for leaving the council as graduation is very appropriate for that, but it also foreshadows her disconnection from Giles in season 4.
Right.
If he's her father and she's anyway. Sorry, I'm trying to.
And also her mom, and also Joyce.
Yeah, and also her mom.
Yeah.
Distance between the two of them.
Yeah, I said that. Sorry, you said you were on a time crunch, so I'm trying.
Oh no! I just have need to and at a specific time. So yes. Sorry. But we're good. We've got a half hour here.
Okay, cool. I have no sense of time, and I thought the word you used in the graduation part 1 video, labeling the mayor as impenetrable, was really interesting. And my brain is not enough of my brain is online right now for me to really take that word apart. So I'm just gonna leave that hanging. Okay. Sorry. The whole Ripper moment with the mayor in the library is everything. I love every Ripper moment. Like, I will suffer through the Dark Age because, like, just for the Ripper moments, like, because it's that.
I love seeing him get protective of Buffy or just being a badass in general. It's great.
And in that scene, again, the mayor never speaks to Buffy, but speaks to Giles directly, sort of reinforcing that treatment of her throughout.
Yeah. The like Angel being like, are you just making this harder to make it easier on yourself? I wrote down Angel being annoyingly insightful.
It's such a good line. It's such a good line.
It's so true.
Yeah, it's so
human.
human.
Love that whole scene. I love that whole scene. As I was watching that, I was like, yeah, this is great. And it's so Whedon. Like, it's so Whedon.
Yeah.
It's great.
Faith's knife, which I don't know if it's been mentioned on the street, but it's so cool. Like, I really want one. Anyway.
You can buy replicas. I've seen them around.
I might just get a tattoo of one. Is a thing I've actually considered. There's something in, like, there's just so many little things happening that signify maturity or coming of age, and Liz mentioned the mayor saying, like, you're gonna blossom or whatever, and so that's a thing about coming of age, and the mayor is ascending and everyone's graduating, but there's also Willow losing her virginity and Oz sort of admitting that, like, yeah, okay, he's had sex before, but, like, this is different, like, he's having sex with intimacy, so it's sort of implied that he didn't really have that before. The, like, Anya literally leaving, and I mean, Anya's just great, and I love that it's like, no, but she's also useful. Like, wait a minute,
just I love
Anya
that.
Was just there to be weird. Anya saves the day, which I love. I love that Anya, like, actually saves the day.
It's so organic too, because like you wouldn't have, because like they weren't probably planning on bringing Anya back for something like this, but it just works very well.
Yeah. just to talk about costuming again for a hot second. The costuming in the dream sequence, it's very slumber party kind of.
Interesting.
Like, well, Buffy's sort of wearing like lounge clothes. She's wearing like these like black yoga pants and this sort of like just, I don't know, like light blue grayish shirt. Um, but it's still more mature. And then I don't know what came out of my mouth, but it was supposed to be Faith. Faith is in this like orange and white tie-dye tank top, which I love, and some pair of pants that I don't remember, which like which is so young. She looks so young, and Buffy almost looks like, looks more mature, but it's very soft and like
Buffy looks like the older sister, though.
Yeah, and Faith feels so like between that costume and the entire way she acts in that scene, Faith feels like so not delicate, not like she doesn't feel fragile as in breakable, but fragile as in like the way that a puppy or a kitten is fragile, something new, something like just born.
Vulnerable, right?
Well,
yeah, vulnerable.
Yeah.
But,
different.
but more than just vulnerable, like that she is. I mean, she's in a coma, and I think it's like this moment of like showing the potential for her to have a rebirth by showing her in a way that it shows this like purity and light that she has and she is capable of, and that is inside her, and that she's never going to be purity and light, because people who there's no one is purity and light, and people who think they are lying, and they're usually assholes. But they are. Have you ever met one? Anyway.
No, I agree. I'm laughing because it's true.
Well, hang on one sec. I wanted to get. It looked like I'm gonna go to Boris first, and then Sarah. Boris, it sounded like you had something you wanted to respond with.
Yeah, I got a lot of notes.
Well, no,
it's about Dawn.
Oh, go ahead.
Like, is the cat Dawn or Faith?
I never actually properly sorted out what the cat was, but I don't remember the dialogue specifically in that line. Walt, do you have a response to that?
I think it's just someone has to take care of, just that company to take care of the cat. The cat needs a home. I don't know anything.
Which it means it could be Dawn because she needs a home, or it could be Faith in the sense that like she's someone that kind of needs to be taken care of a bit. And also, like the cat is kind of phasing in with her in a coma, so it could be her.
Yeah.
Walt, go ahead. Hang on one sec, Walt. We're actually not getting any of your audio. I'm not sure if you can drop and rejoin, but we're only getting snippets. I'm gonna wait just one sec, Walt, and I'm gonna go over to Sarah. We were responding to the clothes in the dream.
I was just gonna back up. Even the makeup is softer on Faith than usual.
The makeup is softer on Faith than the usual. Got it.
Yes, to go with the Evelyn's observations. Even made her like better and softer.
We are having some technical issues. I apologize. Me, as the meeting coordinator, may be responsible for this, having to stream the Hangout separately, and this is kind of the largest group of us that we've had so far.
We are almost at capacity.
Yeah,
there are 2 people on the stream.
One more person is the limit. Well, Emily, let me move over to Charlie, and if we have some time at the end here, we'll circle back, make sure.
I think I'm done, actually.
All right, good deal. Charlie, hello. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Um, I have two main points, but before that, like a few quick things. The whole graduation like nostalgia thing is so relatable. Like
Yes.
everyone at the beginning, it's so. I mean, the first time I watched it, I was years before I graduated high school, so I had no idea. And then I graduated high school, and I was like, oh my god, that's so relatable. And then I like also, I think Cordelia was being really helpful during the group like planning meeting. I thought, I feel like we're starting to get a view of what she'll be like on Angel, and I thought she was actually really helpful. Like it was stupid, the idea of running after the mayor with a box of germs, but it was helpful and it helped get them to the solution anyway. I thought that was really cool. Also, though, I love the final battle scene with everyone taking off their robes and revealing their weapons. Like that is so awesome. I find afterwards it's a bit badly like set up. Like you've got all the parents who run into the school and like abandon their kids, which is just they're just like they're out of there. Like they don't think about their kids. They're just out of there. And then afterwards, like some of the kids try to run away and they run straight into the vampires. And I'm like, why didn't you run after the parents where there are no vampires? Like the other way. Like it felt very weird. Like they kind of they actually jump onto the vampires pretty much, and I'm like, you see they're there, right? Why are you jumping on? Like it's anyway. It's but I do love, but that's kind of all redeemed in my mind by the awesome thing of all the high schoolers like storming down the stairs and that awkward battle scene where they're not really fighting properly. They're just overwhelming the vampires.
Yeah, the mob.
That kind of redeems
Jonathan's
it
just like,
in my mind. It redeems it. Like before, it was just hectic, and then that redeems it. But then on to like my main points. I found let's see. Okay, so first, I think we've already said a lot on Buffy and Faith, and I don't want to like start a whole other thing. But I do find interesting that that we've mentioned already that line where Faith goes all dressed up in Big Sister's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that weird when I watch it because I'm just like, you get the reference immediately, like the more revealing, like she's dressed a bit more like Faith, and more revealing type clothes like that is normally associated with being, more mature and older, and that's, the thing of the little sister dressing up in the more risque, like older sister's clothes. But it doesn't actually make sense in the show because Buffy is always kind of placed as being the big sister. So it's Faith is often put as a little sister, and also with that comparison with Dawn coming up and all that stuff. And then, yeah.
I wonder too if it's that line is specifically a pop culture reference, all dressed up in Big Sister's clothes.
Well, yeah, I know Mark Field makes the connection with Single White Female or whatever that movie, but I think also it feels consistent with with Faith as Buffy's shadow identity. It's actually in that scene Buffy isn't dressed up as Faith, she's dressed up as herself, because part of herself is the Faith part. So she is dressed up as Big Sister is Buffy, and Buffy is dressed up as Buffy, but Buffy includes that Faith shadow self, and she's assumed it and she's incorporated into herself.
Well, the line is also specifically a reaction. I mean, she's literally wearing darker tones a la Faith's style, but I believe that Faith says the line specifically as a reaction to Angel's not going to die, your blood will cure it, and the implication that Buffy is there to murder her is the metaphorical Big Sister clothes that she's now wearing as well. So the line is both literal for the tones of the outfit, but also for the action that Buffy's about to take.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's definitely it. It's just that it always, it's specifically the thing of the Big Sister.
Gotcha. Okay.
That thing, like I get the why she's dressed up as Faith and thing. It's the fact that it's the placing Faith as Big Sister when she's, I think, before been much more. I think she's younger than Buffy, and I think she's been placed as the little sister, stealing the fries at the table. when she's with Joyce. I don't know. She's always been placed kind of as a little sister. It's specifically the fact that she's dressed up as a big sister, which was a problem for me. But then I kind of rationalized it with she is, accepting part of her shadow self.
But
Emily,
it's also
Emily, go ahead.
I think it's Faith's perception of herself in relation to Buffy. I think she sees herself, at least has forced herself to see herself as superior to Buffy, and Big Sister is not actually superior, but like higher up the hierarchical chain. I don't know. I'm an only child.
Yeah, I get that. I don't think this is Faith's rationale. I'm talking in the metaphor of the show of why that's phrased that way. But I know why Faith would say that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And then the other main point, I know we're running out of time, but the other main point I have is I first watched the show when I was, I think, 11 or something like that. So the angel sucking Buffy blood scene for me didn't have the sexual connotations. I did not get it. I was 10, 11. It was not, and I completely, I interpreted the hand destroying the jug and the kick to the table as it being, those being both to show how painful the thing is. It always seemed like it was a very painful thing, like not at all, sexual or romantic.
I think that's
painful.
the literal part of it.
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, I think the smashing is and it being painful is the literal part of it, and the sexual component is more of a subtext metaphor kind of thing.
Yeah, again, I think there's the violence and sex connection. Liz. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. I just needed to unmute myself. One thing that I found more clearly on the rewatch that I realized I've kind of always seen when I've seen this episode. I've always found that scene where Angel drinks her blood as intensely uncomfortable, as in like I get cold sweats every time I see that scene, and I think the reason is because yes, it's sex. Yes, it's an orgasm, but there is also a sense. It's kind of again to get deep and dark. It's kind of sexual assault on both sides, because the way that Buffy reacts once he won't stop is that she tries to get him off and finds that she can't, which is a pretty heavy imagery for a traditional sexual assault scene. But it's actually Buffy who through violence forces this part of Angel into it, and he doesn't want to, and she is forcing him into that situation. So in a sense, it's kind of a violation for the both of them. And it's also, I think, why I'm so mad about how the Scoobies treat Angel at the hospital afterwards.
Yeah,
obviously they're not privy to that information, so I understand why they react the way they do, but it feels very much like victim blaming, and the way Angel reacts is also very much like victim blaming, in that he doesn't stand up for himself as well. So yeah, it's not just a sex scene, it's kind of a rape scene as well.
Yeah, even Giles in that scene laces his the sun will be up with a bit of a bite. And it's interesting thinking about how much penetration is in these two episodes between stabbing and otherwise. That's a whole lot of
yeah.
Going
and
on.
I just realized, because I had that in my notes as well, is the line that makes the mayor go for Buffy, the line that makes her before the dick, which dick is also for obvious reasons. But what makes him mad is that she says, "I took this knife and slid in her like butter." She doesn't say it. She says slid in her like butter. And the way he reacts is with the queer overtones. It's just Yeah, slid on her like butter. There's so much penetration in this episode.
Oh.
Willow loses her virginity.
Char-
Don't worry.
Charlie, I just wanted to give you a chance to make sure you see if there was anything else you wanted to throw out there.
No, nothing more. Really, just though rewatching that scene, it's like I can distance and like see where, the subtext and the, thing of sex and the orgasm, but I still find that scene to just, when I watch it, like physically, I'm just like, that seems like a painful and horrifying scene. And that's the only thing that really translates to me, like physically, in that. Not, that's all.
Fair enough. Boris, last but not least.
All right. We're on a bit of a time crunch, so I'll try and get through these quick.
Well, not too quick.
Okay. Basically, with this finale, I like it, but it's not necessarily one of my favorites. Or like I'd say Becoming Part 2 and Restless are at the top, Privacy Girl, and then like The Gift and Graduation Day are in the section, and then 6 and 7 are at the back. And part of it is that it does feel a little empty for me when I watched it. And well, I'll get into one of the reasons, but I'll just get through a few points quick so we can get through some things. One part I noticed and when I watched it a bit of this previously, when Faith was talking about the scar tissue and how like it all fades, like it kind of reminded me of that bit from Dark Willow that you pointed out, where it's like it's nothing.
Yeah,
and
there's
then the other
there.
kind of amusing bit is just like, oh, of course they're not gonna have Eliza come back all splotchy. Like that just makes perfect sense. Okay, the Anya thing we mentioned, so that's cool. There's the forgiving parallel where like Angel stops a guy from choking someone, and then in season 3 of Angel, he'll be choking Wesley. Which I mentioned.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, someone.
He's not choking her; he's suffocating her.
Well, suffocating, It's
yeah.
like, yeah. Someone mentioned this.
Sorry.
No, totally. Go ahead, Boris.
Okay. Yeah. Someone else mentioned that a while back. Also, I do feel this army of students is more organic than what we get in Chosen, where it feels a bit more forced. Whereas it feels more organic to the story, which I like. I also noticed that in both this and Chosen, they're kind of sardonic they're kind of passive about the fact that people died, and Larry, I didn't know he was dead until season 6, and it kind of sucks that you killed one of your gay characters, but what?
Yeah, that thought
is Gary or Larry?
I think it's Larry.
Larry.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that not only did he die, but it wasn't even clear that he was dead until season 6.
Well, and especially because it seems like Harmony is dead as of this episode.
Yeah, because Harmony, I think they were gonna kill her, but then they decided let's bring her back as a vampire, because she gets bit from the back, which is not really the kind of thing you get for a transformation.
Well,
it's not an opportune moment to turn someone.
I was going to say the logistics of turning Harmony into a vampire are curious, given the horrendous battle going on, and the fact that once the battle's done, does the eclipse clear?
Oh yeah, because an eclipse typically only lasts a couple of minutes, so the vampire would have had to have been really quick, or dragged her into the shade or something.
I'm gonna give it a pass.
Well, yeah,
Vamp Harmony's great.
I think the eclipse it's a magical eclipse.
So,
wait, is it a magical eclipse? I don't know.
No, I think
I'm still walking off in the dark.
I think arranges some stuff.
They're lining it up with an eclipse. I think that's why they have to wait. They have to wait for the eclipse or something like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Although it's also, I guess, the mayor wanted to do a speech or something. Okay, so this is one of my main rants, and this occurred to me when I was looking at the thing, and I honestly don't feel like the rebellion from the Watchers Council means as much as they think it does, or it should, because my issue is that the Watchers, I feel like in a story about rebellion or resistance or whatever, there really does need to feel like there's some kind of sacrifice or a risk of sacrifice or loss or something. And like with this, it doesn't really feel like there is as much as there should be, because Buffy has never really listened to the council that much, and never listened to the council that much, and then like they barely have provided anything really. That like they barely get any research from them.
Well, I think there's a couple of layers to what you're saying. First of all, the council is relatively neglectful of Buffy, or of the Slayer in general. It's clear that Giles is not held in high regard on the council. He's not invited to the council retreat, or so I'm told. So there are many indicators that of what you're saying, but I also think that and we've talked previously about that the council,
the Watchers of Faith,
the Watchers stole the control of the Slayer from the Shadow Men, most likely through colonialization. And so their treatment of her is more as a tool in their arsenal rather than, a sort of high point. Go ahead, Liz.
The way I saw it was that I'm not sure if it was meant to be a sacrifice at all, because the breaking point for Buffy quitting the council is that they won't provide information about the poison that's killing Angel. And in the very next scene, Willow is like, yeah, no, it's this poison right here, and then they just find the antidote, and they're like, yeah. So like literally Willow and Oz in like 2 hours in the library in Sunnydale is about as useful as the council is. So to me, those two scenes back to back kind of shows that they never really needed the council. They were always like training wheels for Buffy, and she only just realized that at that moment. She was like, no more.
Well, and Boris, if you're when in the your comments about rebellion, I think there is a loose connection to Buffy rebelling against the council, but the rebellion itself is really the students rebelling against the status quo that is about to consume them. Adulthood consuming them and assimilating them into those structures of that are to be avoided was really what I was going for there. But I so while I think you're right, I think Buffy is rebelling against a system of control, even if it's a crappy
nebulous one.
Yeah, Emily, go ahead.
Also, just like I agree with you. I mean, the council is shit in so many ways.
Yeah,
but just the fact that Buffy is severing herself from some sort of establishment, it's just in the simplest terms a step towards entropy. It's or not a step towards entropy, but another example of entropy of maybe even her embracing entropy in some way, in a way.
There are interesting parallels in this episode too to Jess and I sat down and broke the script for Bushwhacked in Firefly, and Bushwhacked episode 3 of Firefly is very much about the idea of civilization comes up quite a bit, and the sort of range, the spectrum between too much civilization, which would be the Alliance, and chaos, complete chaos, which is the Reapers and the meaningless universe and all of that. Reavers, excuse me, not, yeah. And the need to sort of find a place between that. A little bit of both is necessary for a complete identity, and sort of how the whole ship represents Mal's identity, and they all bring different aspects of that. But it's interesting how he keeps coming back to this idea and this topic of identity and philosophy. Go ahead, Boris.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like dramatically it could have had more, like, there's stories like, with Supernatural, Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance, which is great, and you guys got to watch it. and like Star Wars and junk, where it just feels like if you're gonna rebel, if you're gonna have poignancy, it should have like some kind of like weight to it. And like because like we don't really see much of the council even after this, they don't really retaliate, and even in season 5, it's just they just kind of shoved aside. It feels like it's missing. But in fact, the character that it feels like has the most rebellion with the council is Wesley, because he's the guy that was growing up in the system, and then he basically like had to learn that the system was messed up, and then he had to grow as a person. He was dumped, and then he had to kind of relearn himself, and then by the time we get to Sanctuary, he will have learned all that stuff, and like he'll become the badass we all know him as. And just one other cool parallel that I saw was like he makes the point that like Faith is trying to use Angel to distract Buffy, and then later in part 2 we have Buffy using Faith to distract the mayor.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And also
like
generally, and also like just generally Wesley like, because he is the one with the sacrifice and stuff. He's staying in Sunnydale to like actually help, not necessarily because of the Scoobies, because they've treated him kind of crabby, but like because it's the right thing to do. Wesley's that kind of cool guy. So that like it's just nice that we get that throughout his later development on Angel.
I also think
sorry.
Let's go Emily first, then Charlie.
Well, Wesley, I mean, the council and the council beliefs are so indoctrinated. So I think maybe like, I don't know, from my perspective, I think it could be not just like doing the right thing, which I think he genuinely does want to do. And I love the like, I'm not here for the council.
For the council.
On behalf of the council moment. I love that moment. But also like, he's been trained to and told that he's supposed to be on the side of the Slayer.
I swore to protect the innocent.
Yeah, but also that he's supposed to be on the side of the Slayer. And I think that the growth in that moment is the flip in attitude from the Slayer's supposed to follow me to him following Buffy and essentially saying, tell me what to do. And it makes me so happy that they bring Wesley back, that they bring Wesley onto Angel.
Yay!
Like, it's so great.
All of this, of course, positions him well to be a member of Angel Investigations, because it's almost like he feels like he needs some redemption for...
We've all got something to
What? I love it. Charlie, go ahead.
Just quickly, another thing that I do find a bit annoying is the constant equation of Wesley's weakness with being female and feminine. Like, if I need someone to scream like a girl, or I don't know, I think generally coded as being a bit feminine and female, and that's like equated with his weakness, and I do find that a bit annoying at times.
There's also some of that going on, or rather the association with that is also because he's English. Giles is at times earlier in seasons 1 and 2, I think, shown to be sort of similar. So yeah, I think it's low-hanging fruit for, as you're saying, for something so ambitious otherwise.
Yeah, but is Giles like I don't remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't remember him being equated with female or women.
More
he's knocked out a lot.
He's posh or something.
Tweedy and fuddy-duddy.
I see it as posh and fuddy-duddy rather than feminine, but
yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually I agree with Charlie here. There's something about Wesley wherein he's coded as effeminate, and it's very clear in this episode because even as he's trying to stand up, his I don't know, there's something about his physical weakness being conflated, if you will, with emotional or personal weakness, so that when he goes down immediately in the fight, he is he's whimpering, which Giles even says. There's the other coded language as well. It's like screaming like a girl, and those things. But there's it's quite subtle. But he is coded as effeminate, and he's almost coded as a gay male if it weren't for his over the top sexual interest in Cordelia, which in itself is almost like, because also he is in this season, he is almost a villain, or he starts off as a villainous or an anti, he's against them, and then he gradually becomes an ally. But there is that effeminate Disney villain that he's got a touch of. And something about this being in the same episode where they kill off the only openly queer character in the show thus far is
I mean,
it's not great.
To be fair, we don't know that we don't actually see Larry die, do we?
No, well, they say he's dead.
Yeah,
They
but
say
they
he's
say
dead
he's
in
dead in
Smash.
season 6.
Yeah, he gets.
No, we do see Larry die. We see Larry get
Yeah.
Yeah,
He gets knocked off with a tail, and he hits the floor, and his eyes are half open, and it's like a quarter of a second, but there's still there is a moment of death there.
As ever,
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
his is the only on-screen death.
in a similar fashion to the way they wandered into the barrier gaze trope with Terra, I think often that occurs through ignorance. To me, what Larry's death is a callback to is during the oneer in Anne. He says, if we can have not quite as many mysterious deaths, Sunnydale's gonna rule. And he ends up being one of the deaths. It's very funny at the time. But again, I mean, the writers, after Terra occurred, acknowledged their ignorance of the legacy of the barrier gaze trope, and to me, that's sort of how I read that moment, for better or for worse, of course.
There's also a limited number of non-Scooby students that we are familiar with.
I mean, there is that, yeah. They kill Harmony, they kill Larry. I mean, there's
Jonathan?
The Hogan.
No, Jonathan's alive.
Jonathan's
not until season 7.
We have Jonathan.
Yeah, but he dies later.
Percy in there. He could.
Jonathan, Larry, Harmony. Like, I'm just thinking.
Faith.
Percy?
Sorry. No, I misinterpreted. Sorry.
That,
well, Percy's a student.
Yeah, we're trying to think of the handful of named students that could have been killed in that scene.
That by that time in the show, and at that point in the show, we would know and recognize and have spent at least a few, enough scenes with that it's oh yeah, that person. Instead of them having to somehow shoehorn a character, it's oh yeah, that guy we know that we've known this whole time. That
would have been kind of funny though, in a way. But...
those are
there was Percy. They could have killed.
Yeah,
Percy.
I mentioned Percy.
Yeah.
There's Oz's bandmates.
Students.
No,
Oz's bandmates aren't students though.
Yeah, because they would have probably graduated since Oz was held back.
We see him on campus, but I believe it's near the van when it occurs, so they might be picking up Oz or what have you.
One of Oz's bandmates dies in Prophecy Girl.
Oh, but how though? It wasn't the band not. It wasn't. Oz wasn't introduced until season 2.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Cordelia was dating someone in a band, and then they were supposed
might have been another band,
and she and Willow found.
I think it was an AV club.
I don't think he was in a band. She dated the lead singer later.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Cordelia's string of
mixing things up.
Men.
Well, before we wrap up, I want to make sure, Boris, we got to everything you wanted to mention.
I think I got through pretty much most of the major stuff. Let me just check here. Exposition. There was something about communicating with shrimp, so that's a shrimp thing.
One of the early shrimp references, yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because Willow was going through spells to stop the ascension, and one of them was
I remember that.
How to communicate with shrimp. Or something.
Yeah.
Stop with the shrimp.
Oh, this is also the first Faith window crash, so that's fun. Cause like
How many are there?
3. Cause first we have the prologue with bad girls going through the window. We have this one. Then we have 5x5 going through the window, and then we have is it Salvage or one of those in season 4 where they step away from the glass and then crash through that. They go down. I love that scene. And then Wessy's like 5x5.
Well, that makes me realize there was probably a parallel to Faith's fall in 5x5 that was intended to be a connection to her dive off the tower here, which I missed and didn't mention. Go ahead, Boris.
Her dropping that bloody piece of glass.
Yeah.
Definitely for that, at least in my opinion.
But go ahead, Boris. Sorry.
Yeah, and someone brought up the whole death wish thing earlier, and then like you could kind of parallel Faith getting stabbed with her own knife to like Buffy getting stabbed with Mr. Pointy in Fool for Love, and it's kind of even a similar kind of motion.
Interesting.
So there's that.
Maybe stabbing is usually a similar, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. The Angel season 4 references were mentioned. I guess that's about it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. It's like 9:06 over here, so
I know we're a little over. It's okay. Yeah. I texted my company that I needed to hang out a little bit more. I just want to make sure. Does anyone else have anything else they wanted to mention? Something we missed? Are we all?
Just one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Fire bad, tree
pretty.
Yay!
I was. It took me a while to decipher.
High school T-shirt.
Yay!
I believe Jack and I both have one of those as well.
I got it from the comic book store.
I got the one that just says Sunnydale on it. I wanted like a replica kind of Sunnydale shirt.
We're all alumnus.
I have a sweater. This was the only Buffy shirt they had in that comic book store.
Well,
$20.
Freaking gigs is what it means. Love it.
Well, I can't believe we did it.
Yay!
This is
Go team.
Pretty amazing.
Yay.
So again, watch for. Liz, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
The scene with Willow and Oz where he's panicking is probably the only time where a show has used the shut the woman up by the man kissing her trope, which happens all the goddamn time, and this is the only time where that is actually nice, because it's Willow rambling and panicking and not actually Oz being like, I don't want to hear what you're saying. So that's actually I just want to, because it's such a good work. Yeah, it's so good.
But he doesn't shut her up. He says, what are you doing? And he says, panicking. And then there's a moment. Like, if she had wanted it not to happen, there was a moment where she could have been like, yeah, but I don't want to panic like this.
Yeah, and also he's not shutting her up because he doesn't want to listen to what she's saying, because earlier in an episode she starts rambling and she tells us, I've told you to stop me when I start doing that. And he's like, but I like it when you do that.
Yeah.
But this time he stops her, and so it's actually really sweet.
Well, the other thing I love about that too is how that is set up by
him to panic.
I love how that is set up by his saying he's not ready to have sex in amends. You know, when that moment occurred, he turns her down, and then in this moment uses. I wouldn't say he's shutting her up; he's redirecting her energy. But it is a use of it is a use of the trope that you're talking about, because she's still in the following scene. She's still not babbling, but sort of rambling. Yeah, she's still rambling on about, is it different? Oh, is this a moment when I'm supposed to be quiet? I don't know. Like, her internal monologue is completely external throughout those scenes. And so, again, he doesn't shut her up. He just changes the focus of what she's sort of going on about, and then just lets her go, which is what I think is really beautiful about that. Boris.
Very beautiful.
Oh yeah, one more note that I missed. I love the teacher hangman guy. Like, that's great.
Oh yeah.
that's a good scene.
That bit is
His
great.
smile,
It
his
feels so legit.
They always go for the
Always
E.
go for the E.
Relatable.
Yeah, that smile
Oh, I love
of pure
that guy.
delight. I love it. It's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Well, this was a great one, everyone. I really appreciate it. We got to. I love how often when we have these conversations, we bring up stuff that I missed and didn't see and didn't notice. It's one of my favorite things. So watch for the post on Patreon for how we're going to restructure these once we add in Angel. My only concern is that, I mean, just going off how the views work on the channel between Angel videos and Buffy videos, you know, if it ends up being just Jack, Boris, and I talking about Angel in the group, then maybe the split hangout is not the way to go.
We'll test it out.
Yeah, I mean,
if I'm available, I'll hop on. I just like my life is kind of bananas. My life is
totally.
more bananas.
And I always want to be respectful of people's time. It's especially why I was frustrated that I got sick last month. So just quick channel stuff. Jess and I opened the script for Bushwhacked last night. Found a bunch of stuff where I'm really excited to share with you guys. The next video up is going to be First Impressions. I'm more than halfway through editing that one. Somehow that video ended up being 20 minutes for an episode that a lot of people go, what episode was that?
I like that one.
And it's full of fun stuff, like talking about stereotypes, and yeah, the comments are going to be a blast. I can't wait. But there's a lot of setting up Gunn's arc in season 5 that occurs in these early episodes that we just have to go over. Yeah. And then after that will be, so it's going to go First Impressions, the next Buffy episode, and then which is Out of My Mind.
Out of My Mind.
And then
Out of Sight.
No, Out of Mind, Out of Sight is season 1.
Yeah.
No. Oh wait, because
that's the Invisible Girl episode.
Right. And then
Out of My Mind is
the
Spike.
Riley episode with where he needs to get the surgery, and then Spike wants the chip taken out of his head,
Yeah.
and then they have the big old like dream sequence that everybody remembers.
And then
of course, the episode I was actually thinking of was Same Time, Same Place.
Oh,
So I had all sorts. I got everything wrong in that sentence.
And then somewhere in there will be the next Nerd Chipper video, and I think I have.
I believe that's around October 9th.
Yeah, I believe I have the idea for what that essay is going to be about. I'll finally get to talk Star Trek only.
Yay!
So we hopefully y'all enjoy that. The Toolbox Fallacy brought in a whole bunch of new subscribers. I hope they like Buffy, Firefly, and Angel, because there's not a ton else.
Or else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's happening.
But if we're go ahead, Liz.
Just a question, because we're gonna try to do the Buffy and the Angel hangout separately. Is that?
I haven't decided. We're going. I'll put a post on Patreon where everyone can weigh in as to how we want to go about that, because there will be episodes of Angel we're going to skip, and then there will be episodes of Buffy, not fewer, but episodes of Buffy that we may want to skip, and so sort of keeping things in sync will become a challenge. And I did enjoy the split format today, which allowed people to from different time zones to show up. So I'm going to throw it out to you guys and, sort of comment how you want to shape this and what you guys want, because these hangouts are for you guys. So, please weigh in and just let me know how what you feel like the best shape is for that going forward.
I will say, I think your idea about showing the videos before we start the hangout is really smart.
Yeah.
Especially when we get into the longer videos.
I mean,
it really eats for the time we have.
I think today was it was like 20 minutes worth of watching the episode guides, which you guys can watch regardless. So what I may do is do a little mini stream where I play the episode guide right before we start these hangouts, and for anyone, and I can sort of it can be like a mini solo stream at the end of each month where I go over sort of what my thoughts were with the video and get behind the scenes kind of stuff, and then drop out of that and we immediately fire this up. And that'll fix problems like 5x5 being 35 minutes long or 20 minutes long, and Restless being enormous and all of that.
J-
Go ahead, Liz.
in terms of the Angel episodes, would you want because maybe someone and I shan't name names, maybe someone hasn't seen all the Angel episodes, perhaps, but I'm fully spoiled, so it's not a problem. But I was just wondering, would you want someone who has like done their research and seen this episode but not seen every episode on a stream talking
Well, that
about
could
that?
be interesting too, but
well, we have.
It would be.
I mean, as long as you've seen the episode we're talking about, I like now everyone on this stream has seen all of.
We have had people show up who were watching for the first time.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that
people before.
Yeah, and it seems to me that this might be an opportunity to actually watch Angel for the first time, if for the purposes of this discussion. Go ahead, Sarah.
Just for next month, I would propose maybe we do watch The Freshman and City of, because they do kind of
it's a crossover.
There's a cool little crossover inside of them, yeah. Well, I do need to wrap up, so I want to say thank you guys. I love these discussions.
Thank you.
It used to be terrifying for me, and now I look forward to them every month. So, thank you so much. Watch on Patreon. Thank you to everyone in the stream, and we'll see you in a month.
Thanks,
Bye.
friends.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.